How you doing, everybody? This is Jay Nanda, San Antonio Metal Music Examiner with Access.com, coming to you from the bowels of the Rock Box venue here in San Antonio, Texas, where the mighty Metal Church is going to go on stage in a few hours. The return of Metal Church back to San Antonio, and I am here with one of the elite vocalists, old and new, of Metal Church, Mr. Mike Howe. What a pleasure it is to have you, sir. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. It's great to meet you, Jay.
It's great to meet you too, and like I said, Metal Church is returning here in a big way on a tour of 11, their latest studio album that was released about 11 months ago.
March last year?
Yeah,
Yes.
March of last year. So just starting off, what's it like for you to feel you guys are doing your swing through Texas? How does everything feel being back on the road? And I guess, that's a double-edged question for you. First, how does it feel to be back on the road? How does it feel to be back in the band?
It's all awesome. It's a great experience, and it's something that we feel very lucky to be able to do at this time in our lives. We did it back in the 80s, 90s, Kurt and I, and to be able to do it again in our 50s, early 50s is a blessing for us. And it doesn't get past us, and we can appreciate it even more now than ever. That we have this opportunity, and the fans still come out to see us. And it's just really a celebration of metal music and the love of it, and I tell you what, we're just very gracious guys, and at this point in our lives, we know how to appreciate it a lot more than we did when we were younger, so it's much more special,
Yeah, and tonight's show for here in San Antonio is almost 3 years to the day that Metal Church was here last, and at that time I had a pleasure of speaking to guitarist and founder Kurt Vanderhoof, and we talked about the band's career at that point. Now, of course, Ronnie Monroe was the vocalist at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Shortly thereafter, you came into the fold. And even at the time, with no disrespect to Ronnie at all, I was asking Kurt during that interview, not so much like, oh, hey, what's Mike up to? Or, have you been in contact with him? It was more like reminiscing of when you were back in the band.
Sure.
Here it is about 4 or 5 months after Metal Church last played San Antonio, and the ball started to get rolling. I know you've probably talked ad nauseum about your return in various interviews, but because this is my first chance to talk to you, can you and for the people out there who may not know, can you give a little synopsis as to how the ball got rolling, who contacted who?
Kurt contacted me in the fall of August 2014 and proposed the idea. He said, that Ronnie had, decided to leave the band, and he was really at, the end of his rope with the Metal Church run. He's taken it a long way, Kurt. He's done a great job keeping the Metal Church name alive and writing records. And he just contacted me, saying, I don't have it in me, Mike, to go out and look for a fourth singer of Metal Church. So this might be, the realization for him that maybe it's time to let go of Metal Church. Unless I would consider, coming back and trying it again. And so at first I was reluctant, because I left for reasons, the business and all that, and then I had a family and raised a family, and, and the things that made me leave the music business, such as things out of our control, managerial problems, record company problems, you can't just be musicians, write music and go on the road and play and be successful always, some things get in the way, and so a lot of things were problematic back then and really pushed me away from music. And it was, just a small example was like the Hanging the Balance record cover. That was just one thing that for me was like one of the final straws for leaving. And so Kurt and I had many discussions about how it's different nowadays compared to the old days. We're going to be in complete control of our destiny and writing the songs, recording them in his studio, and we have final say on album covers, and we're working with a great company, Rat Pack Records, that will just take the product we give them and put it out there and try to promote it for us. So all these things were very enticing to me.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I can't, that would be ignorant of me to not just give it a try, right? I'll be open, let's do this. And so we'll take it baby steps here. First we'll try to write a record and see what happens, because I'm not going to return to Metal Church for nostalgic reasons.
Right.
I'm not going to come back for the glory days and all that. I want to make sure that we're capable and able to write a new record that's relevant nowadays and we feel good about. And so we started doing that, and he traded file sharing on Dropbox with me, and he sent me some songs that he, constructed the basic outline of them, and I listened to this first batch, and I was like, wow, that's really great, Kurt, you know. And he said, okay, I'll write some more. And same thing, and I was like, all right, now we have something here, right? So I couldn't deny that.
Yeah.
So then I started flying up to his house in Aberdeen, Washington, in his studio, and we started working on the songs and getting melodies and sculpting them, and we did that back and forth 3 or 4 times in long weekends, extended weekends, and we came up with this album, and we were very proud of it. And so then the ball just kept kind of rolling from there, you know, and we said, okay, well, let's test the waters and go out and tour. And, you know, we just kind of kept an open heart and open minds, and we said, you know, we'll see what the universe brings us, right? And once we got on the road, all this beautiful feedback from the fans, you know, coming out and rejoicing, you know, and it was such a shared, you know, celebration together of who we were and who we are now, that it really filled me up and kept me here.
Right.
And that's where we are today.
Awesome. You know Mike, of course, from Blessing in Disguise 1989, The Human Factor 91, you mentioned Hanging in the Balance 93, and the brand new record 11. Before we get to that, on the music specifically, you were basically, I mean, it wasn't like you had left and went in other bands, because this is way before Wikipedia, but I was constantly wondering for years, because you were always one of my favorite singers, I was wondering, man, what is Mike Howe up to nowadays? I'm searching for other bands, you know, well, I haven't seen him in the music scene. You flat out retired, right? You were gone from the music business.
Yeah.
But apparently Kurt kept your phone number in his contacts.
Oh, yeah.
I was able to get a hold of you. You guys made a tape.
Yeah, sure. We didn't completely separate. And, you know, we know John Marshall, we know all
You were still
each other.
friends.
Sure, yeah.
So, well, I mean, you mentioned the family life and that sort of thing.
Sure.
At the time, were you pretty much dead set on, I'm done with music forever, I'm starting the next chapter of my life?
Exactly. I mean, I say this in interviews, and I didn't leave Metal Church because I didn't like Metal Church and the music we were doing. I loved Metal Church, you know. I loved the music we did. It was what we were, you know, what I projected us to be, and personified me as a metal singer, I thought, you know. And so there wasn't for me like a question of like, oh, I want to be in another band because this band's messed up. It's not the band's fault,
Right.
It's the business fault. So that's what turned me off. And so I walked away before it got ugly and before I had bad feelings about the band.
Sure.
And, you know, so I saw, you know, the writing on the wall and wanted to step away before I lost my dignity, you know, and that was just it. So, you know, I came back because this is the band I want to be in.
Yeah. It's awesome. I was hoping Kurt would be here because I wanted to ask him. Of course, he's a great song. He's feeling a little bit under the weather today, but of course they're still gonna rock out the show. But he's obviously a great songwriter. But I was wondering from his perspective, like you said, you made a great point that you didn't want to come back for nostalgic reasons. The new music had to make its point, had to be good and worth singing every single night on the road.
Yeah.
So I was wondering from his perspective if there was just that little extra bit of pressure for him to write good material to impress you.
Well,
enough.
I can tell you from his point of view, because he and I are close friends and writing partners, and we've done many interviews, is there was not pressure, because that was part of the talks we had, is we took all outside pressures from the past away, you know, expectations from management and record companies and fans and all that, and went, we're going to get in your studio just like we did 27 years ago, and not even think about the world, because we were just like, let's write some music that feels good to us, and we'll write it in our timeline. When it's done, it will be done, and when we're happy with it. So there was no pressure, and he didn't feel pressure because I didn't put it on him. It's actually the opposite. He felt inspired because Mike's back, and we're back together, and I'm you know, re-energized. Yeah, and he's writing now for my vocals, and for my vocal style instead of, you know, Ronnie's vocal style. They're two different styles, so he can write different material.
Yeah. And this is the end product right here, Metal Church's latest record, 11 killer tracks on here, Reset, Killing Your Time, of course, I Am Shadow, all that stuff. Listen to this, No Tomorrow, and just like I said, it's been out for about 11 months. How do you feel about this record and singing these songs every day?
I'm so, absolutely proud of what we did, and we accomplished what exactly we wanted to. And, this is a product that Metal Church, Kurt and I, and the rest of the guys, this is the first time we've ever been able to do an album completely on our own in the way that we wanted to do it, from songwriting to recording to album cover, mixing, and we put it out saying, this is true Metal Church, how we want to sound, how we want to look, and we can't blame anybody else if it falls on its face. So we're proud of that.
Well, for you youngins out there, Mike Howe first made his stamp in Metal Church in the late 80s on the Blessing Disguised album, of course, Badlands, Video MTV, Date with Poverty in 1991 from The Human Factor. I know everybody talks about Badlands, and you actually made a 2015 version when you returned with Badlands, which is a killer song, but for me, awesome. Fake Healer, Rest in Pieces, It's a Secret, Cannot Tell a Lie, Anthem of the Estranged. That's just a flat-out awesome album, and it continued with The Human Factor, In Mourning, In Harm's Way. It's great songs from Metal Church. Even the older stuff, going back to Reverend Dave Wayne, the late Reverend Dave Wayne, with, of course, the first two albums.
Oh my God,
How do you feel throughout your Metal Church tenure? Do you get just as energized singing the old stuff that came before you as you do the songs that you had a hand in originally, plus the newer stuff?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's Metal Church. It's Kurt Vanderhoof and all the members that were in the band. We're a collective, It's a great, I feel very lucky to be the singer of Metal Church. I really do. And going out there singing Dave Wayne era songs, those are classic, awesome music that they put them on the map, And every time I sing any of those songs, I'm honored.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I normally take questions from my social media readers, and actually one of the questions I have today is from the man behind the lens. Wanted me to ask you about the shooting of the new No Tomorrow video, just the whole setting of that. I don't even, I've watched the video obviously several times.
Sure.
I've seen the behind the scenes making of it on your website, on the band's website, and I still can't really fathom exactly what you call that place that it was shot in.
Satsuk Nuclear Facility. In Elma, Washington, and it was a facility that they were building, I believe, in the 70s, and there were protests or whatever. I don't know if this is exactly true, but it never got built to completion. It was shut down before they even put it online, for whatever reasons. And now it just exists there. There's a business park in there, but they rent it out because it's a cool filming site. They rent it out to film movies in, and I think they did some Transformers stuff. And so it just happened to be a perfect thing that fell in place for us after the album. Oh, look, we have this place right here, and let's go there and shoot that. And so things are just kind of rolling naturally.
And you guys, was it like Kurt had set up a studio where you had filmed your previous album with the band? Back in near Aberdeen or in the suburbs? Right over there? Is that where you guys were starting to...
From the electronic press kit that I did? The Breakwater Seafood place. Yeah, well, I mean... Back then, he needed a studio because he had a little place. He didn't have room to put his studio, so we rented that place there and set his studio up in there, and that's where we wrote The Human Factor. It was awesome.
The Human Factor, yes. Mike, what do you think about as far as when you look back on the previous time? I still remember that classic Headbangers Ball interview you and I think it was you and Duke did on Headbangers Ball, talking about what the great lyrics are on Blessing in Disguise, because it was at the time that album came out, and with Adam Curry. And in fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think Adam these days lives in Austin, Texas, right down the road. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's true. But back in those days with those three albums, what sticks out as far as the recording period, besides more of the industry side of things, just your experience in making those records and touring at that time? What was it like for you? What sticks out when you look at it nowadays?
Well, I mean, they're different chapters of a big book, so when I think about them, they all have individual chapters that are very special to me, and I feel very blessed and lucky to have gone through all that. But I mean, Blessing was my very first, my initiation into the band. So I joined the band, and immediately we went back to Pennsylvania, out in the woods, into an old brick factory that used to be a gun factory, and had a big paddle wheel on the side of it and a creek going through, and they turned it was KGM recording studios. And they said that that's where the gun that shot Lincoln was manufactured. It used to be, that was their, but anyhow, it was a recording studio, and we recorded, we lived in a condo close there, and we came down every day for 12 hours for 30 days straight and recorded Blessing in Disguise. And I mean, that's, I think your first recording session, big recording session, is always memorable, you know?
I've had those songs stuck in my head all day. Like I said, rest in pieces, the spell can't be broken. Awesome stuff.
Yeah, and then,
awesome.
and then when we did Human Factor, we did it in North Hollywood, and Metallica was doing the Black Album down the street, and we used to go down and meet them and play ping pong with them, and so it was kind of cool. We were, you know, recording at the same time so we could go hang out. And so that was a different experience, but so, you know, they all have different...
Forgive the corny pun, but because of the fact that you were away from singing for so many years, and the way you are still kicking it today, I mean, the ferocity, I just enjoy, it's something I told John Bush of Armored Saint when he was here about a year and a half ago, that I'm just, no matter the genre, and I listen to a lot of different styles of music, I'm always drawn to the passionate singers, the guys who sing with conviction and put every ounce of it and feel the lyrics and the subject matter, and you were most certainly in that mold.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
For lack of a better term, being gone all those years, was it a blessing in disguise that you were able to basically rest your voice for so many years from singing live 100 to 200 shows a year for the last 15 years or so? How much credit is that for the way you sound today?
Well, that's the big question, right? If you had a time machine, you might be able to do an experiment, right? A control experiment, and make me sing for 20 years.
At one of those nuclear plant facilities.
Yeah, make me sing for 25 years and see what happens. But yeah, that I always think about that. Yeah, maybe I didn't wreck my voice and, you know, tear it up over those years, and now I still have it. That very could be. I mean, it possibly could be it.
Well, outstanding. We are going to let Mike go. He's got a show to get ready for tonight, business to take care of. Before Metal Church, everybody in the rock box here tonight in San Antonio is going to be a bunch of demoralized servants to Metal Church's every need, and I would not have it any other way. Mike, cannot thank you enough for taking the time and for being back in the band. I cannot tell you how happy I am that you are back.
I appreciate that, and I count myself the luckiest man on earth, okay?
Awesome. Mike Howe, go check out Metal Church when they come to your town. Pick up the new record, 11, right here, some killer stuff. Awesome. For Mike Howe, this is Jay Nanda, San Antonio Metal Music Examiner with Access.com. Reminding you, don't hang them out to dry. Hold them up high. Nice.